25 days. That's how long Vice President Kamala Harris has gone without doing a sit-down interview or holding a press conference since becoming the Democrats' presumptive presidential nominee. But have no fear, Kamala Harris and her running mate Tim Walz have interviewed themselves.
Like I have white guy tacos and
what is
like
that?
black,
like mayonnaise and tuna? What are you doing?
pretty much ground beef and cheese.
That's okay. Do you put any flavor in it?
No.
Oh.
Here's the deal. No, they said to be careful and let her know this, that black pepper is the top of the spice level in Minnesota, you know.
I'm the first vice president, I believe, who has ever grown chili peppers.
I'm trying to expand my food knowledge.
You know, we've got some cantaloupes. You'll be fine.
And new reports are saying that Harris is going to try to distance herself from President Biden on issues he's unpopular on, like rising prices. So why isn't she answering questions on these policy flip-flops? Don't the American people have a right to know where she stands on these issues?
That's right, folks. The vice president has finally given in to the pressure of Donald Trump and JD Vance taking questions from different news outlets. Although, as you heard, instead of giving CNN, MSNBC, ABC News, Fox News, or any other news networks an interview, they decided to interview each other. This is like giving the American people the middle finger because many of us are waiting on what policies that these two plan on implementing. It's now at a point where even those who plan on voting for them are just completely unsure of what policies they will put in place if they win. Probably more of the same since Vice President Kamala Harris is already in the White House now.
Trump or Kamala?
Kamala.
How come?
Just feels less abrasive.
What do you think about her policies?
I haven't looked too much into him as much as I would like to before I vote.
So do you know any of her policies?
I couldn't name one right now.
Yeah, because she has none on her website. Did you know that?
No. It still is a little bit up in the air, huh? I assume she's gonna follow a lot of what Joe Biden has already said.
Do you think it's just like a second term of Joe Biden, basically, voting for Kamala Harris?
I think she will be a little bit more assertive.
Maybe I'm old-fashioned, but as the person who's asking the American people for the awesome honor and responsibility of being their vice president, I think I ought to have to go before the American people and make the case for why I deserve to have that job. And I think it's disgraceful that Tim Walz and Kamala Harris are running from every media interview, running from every reporter. They refuse to respect the American people enough to stand before them and actually ask them for their votes.
Now just imagine voting for the president of the United States and not being aware of a single policy that they plan to put in place once they're voted in. Now, this is a scary notion to think about, right? Which makes JD Vance's point all the more relevant. Both Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have refused to do any media work where it's possible that they would be asked any kind of tough questions.
Now, let's talk about the economic credentials of Kamala Harris's VP pick. A prominent business leader and Shark Tank host Kevin O'Leary has slammed Tim Walz's record as governor of Minnesota.
I'm looking at the track record of an individual who came into a state and wiped out job creation. He wiped out job creation in professional, in manufacturing, in accounting, in every subcategory you look at. Those jobs moved to South Dakota and North Dakota. The South Dakota job rate right now is 4 times that of Minnesota. Minnesota only creates jobs in services that are funded by the government, healthcare and social services. Every other sector is in decline. He's also added a surcharge of 1%, 100 basis points, on top of 9.8% taxes on individuals that are retiring. And of course they're leaving the state in drones.
Kosher, that seems to be true for many leftist governments, including right here in Australia, particularly here in Victoria. The jobs growth tend to be taxpayer funded.
And it's insulting to voting Americans that instead of doing a special where they discuss their platform, they're out here talking about tacos. Is that what you really want to know about this ticket? Like what kind of tacos they eat or make, or what their favorite sauce is, mild, hot, insane? I'll tell you what's insane though. But they also reveal that Governor Walz initially missed the call from VP Harris where she's supposed to ask him to be her running mate. And I want you guys to note that this is all part of an act. These people are just so phony, it's ridiculous. It's all part of this political drama that they're drumming up to paint Tim Walz as a relatable person. But are we really going to believe that he wasn't waiting on a call from Harris? Come on, guys. They can't think that the American people are that stupid, right? Even if the number wasn't recognized, you'd have a clue as to who it was because who else would be calling, right? And if you don't believe that this is part of their entire charade, just look at this report from MSNBC.
Is releasing this new video tonight. Take a look.
I was
Called you,
hoping maybe
Tim.
we wouldn't have to.
I called you, Tim.
Yes.
You didn't answer, Tim.
I know.
What happened?
The most important call of my life. It popped up, and we didn't recognize the caller ID, and it went to voicemail.
Hi, this is Jim. I'm not able to answer.
There you go.
Possible. Thank you.
Hey, Tim, it's Kamala. I really want to talk to you.
It is an amazing privilege. I'm excited. I just want to be part of the excitement that you're generating.
Well, we're
So,
doing it together, buddy.
fun.
We're doing it together.
That's right. Governor Walz missed a call from the vice president asking him to be her running mate because he doesn't answer numbers he doesn't recognize, like the rest of us. It's that joy and laughter you saw in that video that is really causing Donald Trump to spiral.
Now, I'm not sure how Donald Trump is actually taking care of all this, but I'm pretty sure he's laser focused on policies. Much like how JD Vance is pushing for Harris and Walz to do a proper media interview. Because unless the topic at hand is how to prepare tacos, then there's not a whole lot to go on with the whole Walz Harris ticket, right? And here's the biggest takeaway from this. They're avoiding the media because Harris has a tendency to not prepare for these interviews. When I say prepare, I'm talking about doing the work and the research necessary to understand what she's going to be talking about. And I'm not sure if you guys remember, but even the Washington Post talked about this. The VP doesn't have the best management skills. It's why she burned through so many staffers in just the last few years. One staffer, Gil Duran, he worked for her in California when she was the Attorney General in 2013. Duran quit just 5 months and went on to write about her on the San Francisco Examiner. Here's what he said. One of the things we've said in our little text groups among each other is, what is the common denominator through all of this? And it's her. Who are the next talented people you're going to bring in and burn through and have them pretend that they're retiring for positive reasons? A common problem that was noted by most of her previous staffers is that Harris would outright refuse to wade into briefing materials that were prepared by staff members. And yet she's the one who's pissed off and berating employees when she appears to be unprepared. That's not exactly good news for the American people. And speaking of the Washington Post, I want to point out 2 separate write-ups from Jason Riley. The first is dated July 23rd, 2023, entitled Kamala Harris Isn't the Change Democrats Need. In this article, Riley argues that having Harris as the presidential nominee would just bring up issues of crime, illegal immigration, and inflation. But after a year, Riley then switches it up with an article entitled Kamala Harris would be the best Democratic choice. Much like Vice President Kamala Harris, it's clear that these news outlets also flip-flop whenever necessary. The question now in everybody's mind is, when will Kamala Harris actually acknowledge that she needs to address policies rather than just make memes on TikTok? Now, speaking of which, Kamala Harris recently had an outburst at one of her rallies. Now, the facade is fading and she's slowly showing her true colors, guys. In fact, the VP got booed at her own rally, and you're not going to believe her response to it. Now, I did a previous video where I talk about it more. Definitely check that video out after this one. Just go to my channel, click on videos, and you should see it down below. Before I go, guys, thank you so much for hitting the like button. Thank you for subscribing to the channel and sharing these videos. I'll see you on the next one.